Good morning, Glad Tidings. Welcome back to our Bible Reading Plan Devotional. And today we have a very, very familiar guest. Many of you know her. She has been working with GT for many years. It's none other than our youth pastor, Pr Mei Fong. Good morning, Pastor.
Morning, Levi.
And so today we have this topic that's quietness and stillness. So let's start off with the first question. You know, in today's world where it gets so busy and, many of us have Zoom meetings, whether you're a child or an adult. And so what does quietness and stillness mean in today's world?
I'm an introvert, so I love quietness and stillness, especially after a long day of multiple Zoom meetings and spending hours catching up with people. It's pretty tiring. I'm sure you can relate to that, right? And I will just lock myself up in the room to bask in the quiet environment where nobody is talking to me. And of course, when we talk about quietness and stillness in the Christian context, it's more than just not talking to people or just being alone or just, sleep the whole day, rest the whole day. There's so much chaos happening in our world today. Though most of our days are spent in lockdown at home this year, that does not mean that quietness and stillness comes easily or naturally. In fact, this year itself, there has been so many cases of suicide and mental health struggles happening. And being alone does not lead to, stillness and quietness. In fact, when our inner world is chaotic, being alone actually makes it worse. So when we talk about quietness and stillness in a Christian perspective, it is definitely not like a passive thing where we remain idle, sleep all day, lock ourselves in our room, and live a Hakuna Matata life, But instead, it is a shift of focus, actually. To me, it is a shift of focus from busyness of life to sitting at the feet of Jesus. It is a shift of focus from our worries and anxieties to trust God, to trusting God. It is a shift of having a need to control to a place of surrender before God. So when we take time to actually shift our focus from our chaotic world to who Jesus is and what He can do, that's when we will be able to find rest in the midst of the storm. That's when quietness and stillness happen. It is like an inner peace that's within us.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah, it's not just about just sitting quiet and being just still, but like what you said, it's a shift focus and even sitting at the feet of Jesus. And so speaking on that, do you have any Bible verse, that passage that you can share on this topic?
There are actually so many Bible verses, right? If you look at the Bible reading plan, that asks us to be quiet and still before God. But one of my all-time favorite, which is a very familiar verse actually, will be Isaiah 40 verse 31. That says that, but those who trust in the Lord will find new strength. They will soar high on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk but not faint. So every time when I read this verse, I will feel very comforted, and my even though I feel tired, I will feel less tired. When I read this verse, and I just want to be a person who run and not grow weary. And those of you who know me, Levi, you know me that if I just do like 10-star jumps, I'm tired already. During our Healthy Thursday Insanity, just 10-star jumps, I'm like, okay, our workout is done. But in this verse, the prerequisite of being an Energizer bunny is to actually trust in the Lord. And I feel that the definition of being quiet and still before God is actually to trust God. In every relationship, trust is very important. Let's say if I have a trust issue in a relationship, I will begin to get very restless. I'll begin to get very anxious. I'll even get controlling, right? You want to find out what's that person doing, and all this. This is the same with our relationship with God. When we find it hard to trust God, that's when we start to get restless. That's when we want to take things in our own hands and control the outcome of the circumstances. So as a result, we get exhausted, we get anxious, we get depressed. However, when we put our trust in God, just like the verse says, even though the circumstances around us are chaotic, that's when we are able to be quiet and be still to know that God is in control. And another verse that struck me was Psalms 46 verse 10, where it says, "Be still and know that I am God." It's also a very familiar verse. It gives me a picture of a father telling his child that a child that's crying for help, and then the father will come to the child and say that, "Don't worry, Papa is here. Look at me. You don't need to be afraid anymore because I'm here." And when the child immediately hears the papa's voice, hears the assurance of the father, the child begins to quiet down and have a sense of security that everything will be okay because daddy is around, right? Papa is around. He's going to protect me. That's how I visualize that's our God. He's there when we are crying for help. He's there when He's there to comfort us. He's there carrying us. He's there soothing us. That's when we can rest in quietness and stillness in the safety of our Father's love.
That's so powerful, just trusting God and just really depending on God even for the source of our quietness and stillness even in the midst of this world. And so lastly, do you have any advice, even for our listeners and how they can live this out in their lives in today's world? Like, where do they begin to find quietness and stillness?
Like I said earlier, being quiet and still before God is to shift our focus, right? Is to shift our focus of things that make us feel restless and tired to Jesus. This would mean that, it's an intentional making of space and time to connect with Jesus. There is actually no set ways on how to connect with Jesus. Each of us connect with Jesus very differently. It can be the usual setting of a certain amount of time in a day, to read the Bible and pray, or it can just be as simple as just turning on a worship song and allow the song to minister to my heart. Or some of us who love nature, who love to go out to walk in the park, you can actually walk outside and be mindful of God's presence by looking at the trees, sun, birds, Sometimes it can also means that to remove distractions from our life. When you wake up in the morning, what's the first thing you look at? Our phones, right? Usually we look at Instagram, we look at, all the social media, our WhatsApp, our to-dos, But instead of doing that, maybe we can also spend some moment to invite God's presence first, to be mindful of Him first thing in the morning instead of checking our phone first. Something that I do occasionally will be also journaling. Journal my worries, my concerns, my feelings to God as a form of prayer, and I will just sleep and be rejuvenated after a long day. In that sense, I'm just casting my burden to the Lord, not carrying the burdens of the day that has weighed me down before I go to sleep. So there is many ways, but the point is actually to shift our focus from whatever that is making us weary, whatever that's making us tired, to Jesus. And in order to do that, we need to intentionally make space and make time to do that.
Amen. So good. So thank you, Pastor Mei Fong, for even taking time to share with us today. And so for the rest of you, we hope you are blessed even through this devotional on quietness and stillness. And just like the many advice that Pastor Mei Fong has given, whether it's the start of the day or throughout the day, or even at the end of the day, we hope you're able to carve out a space and time where you're able to sit at the feet of Jesus and find that quietness and stillness that can only come from our Father. So thank you once again, and we hope you enjoyed it. If you do, leave a comment and go ahead and share it and like it, and we'll see you again next week.